Hi everyone, thank you for joining yet another chapter of talking about cloud. Today with me is Shunit Kaney, an ex-colleague of mine whom I had the pleasure to work with in Amdocs for about 4.5 years. Shunit is the cloud procurement expert, lately leveraged her skills and experience and moved to Tiva. Hi Shunit, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Zev. Thank you for inviting me. Really excited to
Yeah,
share my
so
knowledge.
sure, thanks. So today we're going to speak about cloud procurement, how to deal with that. It's an unavoidable chapter of going to cloud. And let's start with a little bit the obvious. So, Shunit, what is cloud procurement all about?
Well, it sounds obvious, but it's not so obvious actually. So I think that in the very, very basic level, what is expected in some, or let's say the habit in some organizations is just for the procurement to create some kind of PO which would be within the budget of IT, according to the AOP or whatever, however you define the budget, and then just pay the bills. But this is not, the involvement that we'll surely see in the future, and also not the one that procurement or finance expect nowadays, that we see the cloud spend goes to, from to millions, and for every, I think, mid-size even to huge enterprises, we see a lot of spend going on. This is becoming a very massive category. And obviously, or not obviously, maybe to some of the listeners, but it's obvious to any procurement or finance person that this kind of spend will need to be managed by somebody who is accountable for saving, for management of the spend. So when I stepped in and I started exploring that, it was first and foremost to understand what is the usage at all. I mean, it's not that easy, because when I arrive to Amdocs or any organization, you may see that some employees, they just put the credit card because they wanted a small environment, maybe even on their Gmail account, and it seems like fine to them. But from an enterprise perspective, it's a huge problem. It's a huge risk. And whenever you have an account and a cloud account, you're basically like given a credit card, because you can charge it to huge resources. The amount of the bill would be far exceeding your budget. So
Yeah,
the procurement, yeah.
yeah. So I
Ask
think
the
that the
question.
major change is that before the cloud era, most of the procurement exercises were mostly static, I would say. You had a project, you could size it, you purchased that, servers were shipped, installed, you had some maintenance cost, etc. Nowadays, as you were discussing, it very often comes even to shadow IT, where people are just putting credit cards and then after that wants to get reimbursed for that with all what it means. And I think that from my experience, maybe mainly in the beginning of our joint journey, like several years ago, I think the procurement people were very often being regarded as the messengers, meaning the messengers that were delivering the message that going to the cloud is not always succeeding to reduce TCO. So rather than dealing with the said knowledge of that, I've been witness to lots of tension with the procurement folks. Someone promised us that it's going to reduce TCO, and you are not reducing our TCO. So, any experience on that from your end?
Wow, sure. Lots of experience on that. So, first and foremost, you need to prepare yourself that the ramp up period or transition period is going to take double the efforts and the resources. That's, I mean, you can't really avoid it. And I think that when we talk about TCO, there are so many factors that need to be calculated in. So many factors. Time to market is something which is very difficult to measure monetarily, but it has its own value and where the business is going. So it needs to be really something that if you want to go into the TCO, and by the way, funny enough, I do see enterprises actually back down from the question of the TCO. Okay, we already got it that it's going to be more expensive, at least in the first period of it. And let's talk about,
Agility
the
and
long-term ROI. Let's talk about other other impact that it would have. Like time to market is a huge impact. It's just one of them,
yeah,
but there are so many more. Like the application itself, what you can the options that are available to you.
yeah. So
You
so
want a small anecdote? I just
please.
a very tiny anecdote, really. I'm discussing some kind of product now with the IT internal customers, and they really want it, and it has a certain cost, and they would describe to me what it does, and it's like it allows you to create to develop an application, a service using also sorts of other services like middleware and say, yeah, like middleware. So, wow. And when you, so the ROI here would need to, or the TCO needs to compare to the cost of a middleware. So I'm talking not only the IS to IS, but honestly the complete usage that you can do, the functionality.
Yeah, yeah. So I assume that there is also an intrinsic tension between the financiers' uh, goal or aim, among other things, to get more visibility and more predictability versus cloud, which could save costs, but potentially the dynamic nature of cloud increase the unpredictable cost, or to some degree unpredictable. Is that something that you also see? Because I witnessed several cases where there were some projections in old days when there were servers and monoliths, etc. Maybe it cost more, but it was fairly predictable. Now, where you have, and the unpredictability goes both ways. Sometimes it's much cheaper than expected, but still, that unpredictability caused some challenges for the finance people.
I totally agree. Sizing has, is it needs to be revolutionized basically. I mean, they still need to transform the whole sizing issue because as you said, it's not fixed costs, and we are not looking at a purchase for five years ahead. We're looking at scalability. We're looking at different factors on pricing, and I'm very very happy this is not my problem, honestly. But I can say that we're getting better at it. So the guys that the pre-sale guys, the cloud experts, they are getting better at it at the siding thing. The other thing that you mentioned that I really want to really talk about just for a moment is the visibility. I
Yeah,
think it's a huge issue, and it's huge issue. And if you are like a cloud architect and you hear me now talking and you're really annoyed by me maybe, or you're just waiting to where's the trap gonna come, it's just that us finance procurement people, we need to see the information to be able to really manage things in a way that the enterprise needs to be aligned with the goals and the targets. But we will not, I mean, we need some assistance with it. So there's needs to be some kind of collaboration going on between the cloud center of excellence and the finance slash procurement that are actually accountable for budget, accountable for savings. Also, it's only when you have this consolidated view that you can really utilize the saving plans, the other tools, commercial tools that you have to save here. And saving, maybe it's, if I save 20% and you can use 20% more resources, don't you, wouldn't it be lovely?
yeah, yeah, indeed. And actually, when talking about visibility, I think the procurement team is the one that also aggregates all the needs of the big enterprise because very often, there are different departments, each potential needs to procurement relatively little. But when you go to negotiate a major deal with one of the cloud providers, you need to show the volume and the projection for the volume. And I think that the visibility and the aggregated visibility has a critical role in that overall negotiation and discount level that procurement people succeeds to provide, correct?
Totally. Totally. Consolidated view is everything. I think it's a question where you want to situate the FinOps team. If you want it part of the CCOE, you want it part of procurement. I do believe that it should be under the CCOE with like a joint task force. Just because procurement, we are not technical people, honestly. So maybe I would be a bit more technical savvy than others, not to flatter myself, but maybe a bit.
You are.
But I don't know. I mean, we come at different sizes and shapes, let's say.
Yeah,
So we need it in numbers, like in a way that is not usually available just on, like, let's say AWS or Azure console. It's too many details, and we need to see the high level. So there are many tools in the market, and it's a growing market to choose, to pick and choose which tool is better suited for your organization. But I think really what you said is very important: consolidated view and working with the CCOE in collaboration to create this the best solution and the best results.
cool. And you we mentioned earlier the potential shadow IT. The different departments are, I don't know, different individuals put credit card and then expect it to be reimbursed, which I guess create multidimensional challenges for the procurement. What's your best advice how to address that without interfering the actual business?
Uh,
Yeah.
it's first being the it's I always like to do things collaboratively, if possible,
Yeah.
so back in the time when we were handling the situation, we really requested the assistance of the cloud providers, actually, to anything that is your domain, to be consolidated with the main account, and eliminating the credit cards one by one, and of course approaching the users. Another thing is, just to be a bit harsh maybe, is to stop reimbursing.
Hmm. Yeah. The hard way.
Sorry, I know I'm bad, but it's just
Yeah.
sometimes the only approach. This is, by the way, this is not the financial risk is not the only risk. So if you are using your Gmail account for the company usage and goals, you may expose code that that you're not supposed to expose. There are many risks here. Data may be exposed. So this is something that really needs to be taken seriously.
Yeah, and I know that you also collaborate a lot with the CCOE of the IT itself to make sure that there is like a landing page for on-demand procurement and on-demand cloud procurement, because after all, cloud is a lot about on-demand, and you don't want to have a lengthy procurement processes where someone needs it. So there is lots of IT work that could be entered into that to still smooth, pave the way. So, looking at the time, maybe we're coming to our last question here today. How do you see the future of cloud procurement? I mean, where is it heading to?
Well, I think we are starting to see the future when I see, that companies are looking for cloud procurement. This is like, wow, it's so,
It's not yet
honestly, I
another,
feel
yeah, it's not yet another procurement lady. It's a cloud procurement expert. Yeah,
cloud procurement as a specialization,
yeah.
as a specific expertise. This is starting to be recognized as an expertise that needs to be handled. And I think we're going into this phase where procurement are really digging into what is cloud procurement. And I wholeheartedly recommend really the collaborative view and working in partnership with IT, with Cloud Center of Excellence to give the organization the best platform possible.
So, Shunit, with that, I would like to really thank you for being a real rainmaker, and thank you for joining us in the Rainmakers discussing cloud. Thank you very much, and see you in the next chapter.
Thank you.